Hello and welcome back. I'm DrHamfist, and we've got exciting news today. Witchwood is confirmed launching on the 12th, and possibly more exciting, on April 9th at 11 a.m., we're going to have the final reveal stream brought to us by the Laugh Chamber that is Ben Brode and Day 9 combined. So that's awesome. Let's jump right into the cards, though. We've got Dollmaster Dorian first. So this is a neutral legendary. It's a 2/6 stat line on 5, which is somewhat bad, but it's got this effect. Whenever you draw a minion, summon a 1/1 copy of it. So cards to think about with this one. Any card that is low stats to begin with for its cost is going to be good with this, because when you get a 1/1 copy of it, it still does a lot. In particular, death rattles, like anything with a battle cry you kind of have to throw out. But think about like Blood Mage Thalnos. That's particularly good for this for two reasons. The 1/1 version of it is the full version of it, but also, if you have anything with death rattle draw a card, and it's on the board when you play Dollmaster, you can crack it in, draw a card the turn you play Dollmaster Dorian. Because this is going to be removed pretty quickly. It's a pretty high priority target to remove, but if you can sort of store any draws until right after you play him, you can immediately cash off those. So this is going to be good. I don't know if there's any super crazy combos you're going to see with this. We're basically getting the Barnes effect, but repeatedly, but your ability to draw cards is going to meter how often it's going to trigger. And also, if you draw spells, it just blanks. So I don't think it's going to be crazy strong. But this is going to be a nice replacement for Barnes, where we're losing Barnes to rotation, but this is a much more balanced version of it. So you're still going to be able to see some Barnes-ish type combos, but it's not going to be nearly as reliable, because you can't jam one minion and Barnes into a 28 non-minion list and just cheese out anything you want that way. It's going to have to pull specifically a minion on the top of your deck. So I do like this one a lot better. And then the next card coming out is very flavorful with this. So this is the Voodoo Doll. So a 3-mana neutral epic 1/1 minion with Battlecry, choose a minion, and Death Rattle, destroy that minion. So this is actually going to be pretty good, despite its general like terrible stat line and its delayed effect. You kind of have to think about this one with Mage and Warlock in particular. For Warlock, you can play the Voodoo Doll and then Defile, or play the Voodoo Doll and then Dark Pact it. That's 4 mana and 2 cards to kill anything and gain 8 health. And in particular, with Mage, after you've played the Death Knight Jaina, you can pay 5 mana in this card to kill any minion you want and get a 3/6 Water Elemental with Lifesteal. So this is definitely going to see some play. I don't know if it's going to fit other classes, but in Warlock and Mage in particular, I definitely see this. And I also like that with Dollmaster Dorian, this actually just is a 1/1 doll with no ability at all, because you can't make a doll out of a doll. But I think this is a flavor win. I like the both of those two cards we just saw. Splintergraft is an 8-mana Druid legendary with 8/8 stat line, Battlecry, choose a friendly minion, add a 10/10 copy of it to your hand that costs 10. So adding a 10/10 copy that costs 10 is a lot worse than adding a 1/1 copy that costs 1, and Shadowcaster wasn't crazy. So I don't think this is going to see much play. If anything, it's going to work with like an Aviana Coon combo where you get extra copies of something. But I mean, it's just like a weird faceless manipulator. The one catch is that you can activate a Battlecry again when you put something back to your hand. But things that were Battlecry specific, we already could have done that before with those bounce cards that we would see with like the Cthulhu combo druid sort of lists. So I don't really see this going anywhere. It is, in a sense, just a bunch of grindy value. For this card alone, you're basically getting 18 worth of stats total. So maybe it's not unthinkable that you would just jam this on a minion just for the value of it instead of like a proper combo. And then you just look at what minions are great when you beef up their stats. I don't know. I don't think it's going to see too much play, but I also think it's fine to have some of these cards be just, decent-ish, value-ish cards. We don't want anything to be too crazy right at the start of a rotation schedule, because then the rest of the year is sort of solved, and the next expansions have to be very crazy to actually see any play. So seeing stuff that, has some value, but isn't probably that good, I think it's totally fine for the start of a year, so that we don't have to power creep super hard the rest of the year. So it's reasonable. It's cool. It definitely does feel like a legendary effect, sort of making a dino-sized version of anything else. So I think it's fine. Toki the Time Tinkerer, or Toki Time Tinkerer. This one I'm very excited for. Not because it's going to be good, but this is a 6-mana Mage legendary. It's a 5/5 with Battlecry. Add a random legendary minion from the past to your hand. which means wild only cards. I don't know if in future sets this will keep updating. I hope it does. But this is the only way to get wild only cards into standard right now. So, or well, once this is out, which is cool. The thing is that random wild only legendaries aren't that good. Random legendaries to begin with are pretty bad. Plenty of them are synergy focused for, types of decks you're not making at all. Like even in the reveal for this, there was like an animation feature that showed them pulling Rend Blackhand, which is like a greatly overcosted 8/4 that's just going to get traded easily. I don't think it'll really get there. There was in TGT a 6-drop 5/5 add a Paladin card to your hand, and I'd like to say that Paladin cards are generally better than random legendaries. The one nice thing about random legendaries is they tend to be pretty big cards, and if you're playing something on turn 6 to draw, you want some sort of like high value card, whereas a random Paladin card can be, like Holy Light or something. So it's probably better than, I think it was called Grand Crusader or something like that. But that card wasn't great to begin with. You will see this just for the memes, though. And it's not a totally unreasonable card, so I definitely like it. Super flavor win. And it'll probably see a little bit of play in some sort of value-oriented mage. I don't know how good that will be, but you probably will occasionally see this, and then occasionally get, Sylvanas off of it or something. I'd be very happy you did. So Mist Wraith, a new rogue rare minion. This is a 4-drop 3/5, which is borderline good stats. Sentient Shieldmaster back in the day was a great card. It doesn't exactly keep up these days, but 3/5 is not totally terrible. And whenever you play an Echo card, gain +1/+1. So after the first Echo card you play, this becomes 4/6. But really, you're not going to be playing one Echo card. If you play Echo cards, you're going to be playing several. We've already seen... well, actually, let's see. I think we've seen Cheap Shot, and we're about to reveal Pickpocket is coming up. Both of which, a slight spoiler for the next one, is they're both 2-mana Echo cards for Rogue. And we also have seen a 3-mana Echo neutral, like Taunt 2/4 minion. So if you play this, next turn play 2 Echo cards, because you're playing one of them that costs 2, this would become a 5/7, which is very good for 4 mana. But the thing is, the turn you play this, you're not going to be able to jam any Echo cards, and it's just a 3/5. And it's sort of like a 3/5 soft taunt, because if they don't kill it, for all they know, you're going to play some Echo card and get a ton of value. But you're basically just approaching Ascension Shieldmaster at that point, right? Because it's a 3/5 with kind of taunt the first turn you play it, and Ascension Shieldmaster is garbage in, today's meta. So I don't think it'll be good, but it's not totally out of the question that we might see this. There are some decent Echo cards that are going to hit Rogue, so maybe. But I think this is just worse than Ascension Shieldmaster. Because at least if you play that, they have to kill it before they can jam your face. Whereas with this, it's soft taunt. They can just go face if they would rather go face. Pickpocket, the next card. So 2 mana, spell, Echo. This is in Rogue. Add a random card to your hand from your opponent's class. So it's basically just garbage hallucinate until you start playing it more than once. And when you start playing it more than once, pay 2 to draw 1, pay 4 to draw 2. It's basically right behind the actual proper mana value for draw a card. You generally want to pay about 1 mana to draw 1 card. You usually kind of want a bit of fluff with that too. See Power Word Shield, for an example. And then for 3 mana, draw 2 is acceptable. Arcane Intellect does see some play. And then for 5 mana, you're getting the Druid Nourish levels. Nourish has the extra value of being able to generate mana instead, and it's, it's got 2 modes. So even the 1, 3, and 5 for just draw 2, you almost always get a bit of extra value from it in a different way. Arcane Intellect actually just being the proper, pay 3, draw 2. So I think this is definitely bad by itself, but there's some Echo synergies. There are some, from your opponent's class synergies that exist. So it's not unthinkable it'll see play because of those synergies specifically. But there's no way you would just jam this just for the value of the cards it produced. It would have to be in one of those synergy areas. And then maybe you could see this with Gadgets and Auctioneer, where it would read, pay 2, draw 1 card from your deck and a random card from your opponent's class. At that point, being able to, jam 4 or 6 or 8 mana, producing 2 cards per 2 mana spent would be a ton of value. So it's not totally unthinkable. It's a little bit awkward, and it'll probably see play in like an Echo synergy or a opponent's class card synergy list. Silver Sword. So this is an 8 mana paladin weapon. It is 3/4, and it says after your hero attacks, give your minions +1/+1. Paying 8 for a weapon is a lot. Vine Cleaver does see fringe play at 7. It's a bit more impactful when you place it down. It's a 4/3 and it starts to build a board. You don't have to have a board to begin with before it starts getting you value. Silver Sword on an empty board does nothing. So I want to say this is a lot worse than Vine Cleaver. We might still see this in some ways. There's like that, it's like the Eben Smith or something. There's some card from Kobolds and Catacombs that is a 4-drop 3/4 dragon that reduces the cost of one of the weapons in your hand by 2, which would mean this would cost 6. And maybe we actually do see that dragon. We've seen a little bit of dragon synergy coming out here. In particular, there's that Gargoyle for Paladin. That's a 2/2, which becomes Divine Shield and Taunt if you're holding a dragon. So maybe there's some way where we see some sort of dragon, reduce the cost of this weapon, maybe jam it on turn 6, maybe Paladin. I think Paladins will generally just skip this and just go for a more traditional aggro list. I don't think Murloc is going to stick around, but just a traditional aggro list with Call to Arms and some of the normal package that we're seeing that is staying in there, like Sunkeeper Tarim. I don't think you're going to need this huge weapon. So I don't think it quite gets there. I think you would still even go to Vine Cleaver first rather than this, even with that that Smith play with that card from Kobolds and Catacombs. So probably not, but maybe. Bellringer Sentry, on the other hand, absolutely. I'm 100% sure you're going to be seeing this around. So it's a 4 mana 3/4 Paladin minion. It does sort of clash with Call to Arms being in the same mana slot, but this is a very strong card. So Battlecry and Death Rattle put a secret from your deck into the battlefield. We haven't yet seen a secret for Paladin in this set, and we probably will based on the fact that this card exists, I would think. But even if we don't, there's plenty of decent Paladin secrets. We're losing the Getaway Kodo card, I believe, because that's from Gadget's End, which is a shame because that would be really good with this card in particular. But we're keeping several that are fine. Just Get Down, for example, is a 2/1, and it's got like, sort of like Stealth Taunt where it's a bit annoying and also has kind of taunt. That's summing to 5/5 of stats before this will then die and get another secret out. So I definitely think this is going to see some play. The fact that it clashes with Call to Arms hurts it a little bit, but it's strong enough that I'm willing to bet this is going to push out other 4-cost cards. And the secret package is being largely untouched by rotation, whereas the Murloc package is losing a lot of its cheap Murlocs, which make Rockpool Hunter so good. So I'm willing to bet that Aggro Paladin is going to go towards more of a secret slant, and you might see this in a slower, grindier Paladin too. The Glass Knight, a very unlegendary legendary. People are saying that online. I literally read this and didn't think it was a legendary, and then was reading through the comments and was like, what? This is a legendary? Yeah, so the Glass Knight is a 4 mana 4/3 Divine Shield with whenever you restore health, gain Divine Shield. So I'm unsure about how good this is going to be. A 4/3 Divine Shield by itself for 4 isn't that bad. We have seen a 4 mana 3/3 Divine Shield that's in the classic set or classic or basic set that sees no play at all. Giving it one more attack is a bit meaningful. This does cause it to dodge all of that priest removal. It's going to trade a lot better into minions because 4 attack coming down on turn 4 is a lot better than 3. There's quite a few minions that will actually be able to survive 3 that won't survive 4 when you're talking about the 4 mana time slot. But then whenever you restore health, gain Divine Shield, I'm not sure how often you're going to trigger that. Sort of the key choice here would be that Jinny that gives you +3 health at the end of your turn, because that way this would get Divine Shield every turn. It's like Benevolent Jinn or Benevolent Jinny or something. So that would combo pretty well with this. And in fact, it's a 3 mana 2/4 Jinn to get into a turn 4 this. It's right on curve. But past that, I don't think there are that many cards that are really going to trigger this that often. There's a case to be made for the weapon, the 4/2 that heals you for 2 when you swing, but you're really flooding your 4 slot to make that work at this point. So I'm not sure how much play this is really going to see. So, neutral Worgen Abomination minion. This is a 7-drop 6/6. You're paying a little bit too much for that, and then you're getting, at the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to all other damaged minions. So it almost plays Sleep with the Fishes every turn. And Sleep with the Fishes is a 2 mana card. You know, you can go ahead and give this a whole mana reduction and say it just generates you 1 mana to deal 2 to all damaged minions every turn. It's still pretty big value, where if every single turn you're going to be pinging. You can kind of compare this to the 5-drop 4/5 Demon and Warlock that pings everything for 1 at the end of its turn. The catch there is it's only enemy minions, and it always works, and they don't have to be damaged, and it's just a lot better conditions on it. So I don't think we're going to be seeing this much, just because even that Demon doesn't see too much play, and it's definitely a lot better of an effect, or at least more of a direct effect. The one catch is that Warlock has so many good cards to begin with that they really push that card out. So maybe neutral, maybe this makes it in one class, and the key assumption would be it would make it in Warrior, who's very good at pinging all minions. So maybe this sees play in some sort of controlling Warrior. A card that will see play in Warrior is the Town Crier, a 1 mana 1/2 Warrior minion with Battlecry, draw a rush minion from your deck. So this is absolutely going to see play. Drawing a card for a 1 mana minion is huge. Drawing a rush card specifically is arguably better than drawing any card. You're still getting to pick the cards in your deck that this could draw, and then you're limiting that pool so it's more predictable what it will gather. And if you're drawing a rush card, you might be able to play this into the curve of the Fiery Wood Axe, the Woodcutter Axe, which is a 2/2 weapon for 2 that when it dies buffs a rush card. So if you're drawing some rush minion that you can then play later, maybe coin out a 4 mana one or play a 3 mana one, or even just a smaller one, you can play a rush curve with this, and this Town Crier, which you can play 2 of, definitely rounds out that curve and makes it very reliable. And just 1 mana cards that draw a card are brilliant. We see Kobold Librarian everywhere in Warlock, and it's a very, very strong card. People that are building Reno Lock, or, Singleton Lock, maybe not specifically Reno in Standard, you'll actually see some lists running around with 2 Kobold Librarians and then 28 unique cards. And they're willing to have the risk of 2 Kobold Librarians turning off, like Kazakis and everything, just because it's so good. And this has no conditions, doesn't ping your face. 1/2 is probably a bit worse of a stat line than 2/1, but this is going to see play. Kobold Librarian is crazy, crazy good, and this is right up there. So this is going to be a very, very good card. Totem Cruncher, a 4 mana 2/3 beast in Shaman with Taunt and Battlecry. Destroy your totems, gain +2/+2 for each destroyed. Yeah, I don't think this is going to go anywhere in its current state. Barring us seeing some way to jam a bunch of totems that we don't have right now. There are a bunch of cards like that in Kobolds and Catacombs that aren't seeing any play right now because they don't have enough support. And we'll probably see some more of those roll out through the rest of this year of the Raven. And eventually you'll probably see this. I don't think it has enough support right now. I would have liked to have seen this say something like gain the effect of each totem you destroyed. Just so you could get this weird totem amalgamation that, did all these weird things. I don't think in its current iteration we're really going to see this. The one argument for it would be an even Shaman. The even Shaman deck where you only run even cards, you benefit from Gen Greymane, who makes your totems only cost 1 for your hero power, so maybe you can have a few more of them rattling around to eat with this. But only eating 1 gets you to a 4/5 for 4 with Taunt. So it's Yeti, but with Taunt for a bit of upside, but you also killed one of your own totems to get there. And that's probably not worth the Taunt that you're throwing on top of a Yeti. And the Yeti also is not really seeing play right now. But if you get it up to 6/7, then you're talking. You do have to blow up 2 of your minions to get there. But if they're just totems that you paid 1 for and didn't spend a card, you're probably fine with that. So maybe it gets there in even Shaman, if anywhere. So neutral legendary, Countess Ashmore. This is a 7-drop 6/6. This is very much the same slant as the Curator. This has Battlecry, draw a Rush, Lifesteal, and Death Rattle card from your deck. Note that says card and not minion. So this can grab, say, spells with Lifesteal. This can grab weapons with Death Rattle. There are a few of those, and that's going to make it probably see play in some of those lists. Now, at turn 7, you're probably playing a pretty slow deck if you're actually trying to search for these. Maybe we see this in Kingsbane Rogue, where, if you have a Death Rattle card and that Death Rattle card is Kingsbane itself, maybe it makes it there. It probably also sees play in Warlock because it can draw the Spellstone. So I'm willing to bet we'll see some play out of this, and then Warrior seems to have the best rush cards. So I think I have my eye on Rogue, Warlock, and Warrior playing this, and then possibly also Priest. This can draw you that 2-mana lifesteal Whirlwind, basically. The catch being, on turn 7, you've kind of missed the boat on that being that valuable, but it's not unthinkable that you might see this in Priest as well. But I definitely think this is going to see a lot of play, and it'll probably see play in other ways that I didn't even list there. And even, every expansion, this is just going to become better, because there's going to be a larger card pool, and there's going to be more things this could draw, and we're going to see more Rush and Death Rattle and Lifesteal. So this is probably going to become a lot better throughout the Year of the Raven, and then probably even a lot better the following year, because Rush will probably stick around. It's basically balanced charge, so we're probably going to see a lot of it. Not necessarily nearly as much as we're seeing in this expansion, but we're just going to accrue a little bit more Rush in each expansion, I would bet, and obviously Death Rattle's going to keep showing up. And then Lifesteal probably too. So this is, if anything, going to get better over time, and I think it's already pretty good to begin with. So you'll be seeing a lot of her for the next 2 years. 2-mana spell in Mage, Book of Specters. So draw 3 cards and discard any spells drawn. So this one's very weird, because 2-mana draw 3 is crazy, because you've just inverted Arcane Intellect. You're paying 1 less and drawing 1 more, so 50% more effect at 2/3 the cost is pretty crazy. But discard any spells drawn. Oof, that is rough. You might see this in some sort of Spiteful Mage list, maybe. The catch would be that if you pull this off Spiteful, it just bricks, so you'd have to include about 4 or 6 large spells to give you a much more consistency of Spiteful working. And past that, you might see this see play in just a deck with at least 20-ish minions, because then you're pretty reliably drawing 2 off of this, so it's just a cheaper Arcane Intellect. And if you discard the spells when you draw them, oh well. So I'm not sure the deck exists for this yet, but it is a very powerful effect. Drawing 3 for 2, if you can make it work, is pretty crazy. It has a notable non-synergy with Keleseth, where decks that are jamming a ton of minions usually like to include him. So I don't know if this is really going to work out, but you might see this because it's very powerful. And when we see more minions and any other non-spell cards, if any other ones are printed over the next 2 years, this would become, if anything, better. So probably won't see too much play right now, but this will get better as we see more non-spell cards released for Mage and Neutral. Mossy Horror is a 6-mana 2/7 neutral minion with Battlecry, destroy all other minions with 2 or less attack. So we're basically getting Shadow Word Horror on a stick. Shadow Word Horror being very playable right now. This costs 2 more and gets you a 2/7. And paying 2 to get a 2/7 is pretty reasonable, and then stapling an effect onto another card is pretty good. So you probably would say this is good just by the value of it alone. Part of the value in Shadow Word Horror is that it comes out on turn 4, though. Waiting 2 more turns to then ping anything that's 2 or less attack, a lot of the decks that are jamming small minions do have ways of buffing them and getting them out of range of this. So I'm a little bit torn. It looks good on paper. I think it might be a lot worse than we think, because by turn 6, you're kind of looking for like a hard board clear that's going to hit everything. And if you're playing against, say, like Dude Paladin, they might have buffed their minions outside of the range of this by then. Sunkeeper Tareem, Level Up, maybe just evolving them with that Stegodon. So I'm not sure this is quite going to make it, but it looks pretty good just from a value perspective, so maybe it will. Festerroot Hulk is a 5-mana 2/7 in Warrior with after a friendly minion attacks, gain +1 attack. So the turn you jam this, if you had other minions, you're going to play this first, swing with those minions. It's going to land with more than 2 attack. It's just a lot of loopholes to try to jump through to get to some value, though. Because, when does this become worth it? I think a 5-mana 5/7 isn't quite there. So you're kind of looking at, playing this, It's not really worth it if they're trading into it if you don't get it past about 5 attack, which means you have to have 4 other minions, which means you're already ahead enough. Why do you need this? If you have like 2 minions on board, but they aren't really interacting with your board that well, and you can swing with them again the following turn before this one attacks, then you're getting it up to like 6-7. I don't think 5 mana 6-7 really quite gets there either. And this is a 5 mana warrior card. You're jumping through a lot of hoops where you could just be jamming some other useful 5 mana minions, and there are some of those, like Leroy Jenkins. So I don't really know where this fits in. It would, in theory, be very good with rush minions, and in particular, rush minions with Echo, but I don't think we're going to see any of those for Warrior. We already saw one of those for Hunter. I don't think this is going to have the support it needs, but maybe it gets there in some sort of deck. I mean, Unleash the Hounds and then, the 2 mana Echo Rush card for Hunter. It seems like this would, if anything, really work well in Hunter, but not in Warrior, I would think. So I don't think we're going to see much of it, but maybe we see some support that isn't out there yet. Splitting Fester Root is an 8 mana neutral 4/4 minion with Death Rattle, summon 2/2 splitting saplings, and those splitting saplings, of course, are 2/2s with Death Rattle, summon 2 1/1s, and I think they're called wood chips when they get down to 1/1. So this is a weird one to evaluate, but I think the best way to think about it is you're paying 8 for a 4/4, and if they clear it, you kind of still have a 4/4 because you have 2 2/2s, and if they clear those, you kind of still have a 4/4 because you have 4 1/1s. So you're kind of playing a almost immortal 4/4 for 8, but it also would just die to silence. I don't think it's really going to be enough pressure when you're looking at turn 8 to get there. N'Zoth is rotating, so, recurring this is going to be a little bit rough. This is decent off of, a Barnes type effect, which Barnes is leaving, but we saw Dollmaster and then also in Priest. This might make it for the quest because you have, summon Death Rattle minions for the quest. This, you pay 8, you get this. Then when this splits, you get 2 more Death Rattle minions. So it's 3 ticks for the quest by itself. If you have a way of sort of cheating this one out, you can pay 3 to get that, 2 1/1 versions of Death Rattle minions, maybe. So maybe you would play this in some sort of very spell-heavy quest priest, where you're trying to play very few minions and then still complete the quest, but largely just be spell-based. I don't really see it. So I think this is just too low impact for turn 8. If you had a very easy way of cheating this out, maybe. But I don't think there's brilliant ways to cheat this out without paying the mana for it. And then also, it's not that huge of a payoff if you even do. So I don't think this one quite makes it, but we'll see what's left in the set. We still have about 1/3 of the set left to go. I think we've seen about 80 of 135 cards. So a bit more than 1/3 of it left. Most of that's going to be hit during the final reveal stream with Ben Brode and with Day 9. And that's about as good of a cast as we could ever have gotten. You might hear my dog coughing in the background. She's fine, though. Yeah, so tune in for that stream. There's going to be one more card reveal that I'll do before then, just most of the other cards that have hit before then, and then one final first impressions on those, and then just the power rankings. And then the set hits next Thursday. You should be excited. I'm excited. I hope you are too. See you around.